Welcome everybody to our next Immersive Learning Research Network webinar for iLearn November. We're extremely proud to have Dr. Noah Glazer from the University of Missouri School of Information Science and Learning Technologies. Noah is an assistant professor there, where he's also the director of the Information Experience Lab. Prior to his academic career, Noah worked as a freelance gaming journalist and a web developer. Dr. Glazer received his PhD in instructional design and technology from the University of Cincinnati. Noah primarily conducts design research to create learning interventions that use innovation technologies such as virtual reality, video games, mobile devices, and artificial intelligence. He is particularly known for his work on developing innovative, immersive learning systems for neurodiverse learners and has conducted research using EEG and eye trackers to better understand how people learn and interact with technology. Noah's been involved with iLearn for quite some time, having been our first research associate for the Immersive Learning Research Network for our State of XR and Immersive Learning project. So he's also, I count him as a close friend. So I hope everyone is ready for this. No, I hope you're ready. Thank you and welcome, Noah Glazer.
Thanks. What more could I say? End of presentation. So yeah, hi everyone. Today I'm going to be sharing some of my work with you all. Again, the title of this presentation is Neurodiversity in Focus, Pioneering Inclusive Strategies in Immersive Learning Environments. So if you're here for the mathematics seminar, you're in the wrong Zoom room. All right. So yeah, I'm Dr. Noah Glazer, as Jonathan mentioned. I'm at the University of Missouri. You can find more about me at noahglazer.com. I've also littered a bunch of fun facts about me throughout my slides today. So fun fact number one is that I have an identical twin brother. He's not as cool as I am, but he is as handsome as I am. So, all right. To kind of share more of my background with you, understanding of where I got, how I ended up here in academia, made those really good life decisions. My background's actually in IT. I've been doing web development and software development since I was 14 and started doing some freelance projects, started my own business doing design and development. And then I decided to spend a bunch of money to get a degree doing what I already knew how to do. And then I worked in industry for a while. Didn't really like it, so I also was working as a freelance gaming journalist where I gained a lot of cool experience working with Nintendo to promote some of their materials and also getting to try out a lot of cool gadgets and games before they're released to evaluate them. And then after doing that, I bopped around, got my master's in instructional design, then I got a master's in education for social change, and I got my PhD in instructional design and technology. And I've done a bunch of weird work since then. So fun fact is I can barely swim. And I think the Google bot is listening to me because I received an email this morning about adult swim lessons. I'm feeling called out. So anyways, so a little bit about what I actually do. I do a lot of things. But when people ask me, my brief elevator pitch is basically I perform research and development on learning experiences that leverage advanced learning technologies such as virtual reality, artificial intelligence, mobile devices, and interactive experiences. Fun fact number three is I have a absolutely massive video game collection. All right. So I'm going to talk to you about some of the work that I've done with the focus. I'm going to focus specifically on work around neurodiverse audiences. The very first project that I ever worked on as a doc student was a web-based intervention called the Epilepsy Journey. It was a collaboration between the local Children's Hospital's Epilepsy Center and the instructional design program at the University of Cincinnati. And the whole idea of the epilepsy journey was to create an intervention for kids with epilepsy who are experiencing executive functioning challenges. That might be like memory loss, attention, like remembering to be to take care of yourself and hygiene, stuff like that. So knowing that people with epilepsy are all different and they all present their symptoms differently and their executive function differently, we knew the importance of trying to make it a personalized learning experience. What we had was a variety of different modules around different forms of executive functioning where they can go in and they can focus on the areas that are related to their specific needs. As you can tell, it had sort of an adventure, narrative themed, and it was made to be gamified with badges and points and achievements as a way of trying to boost the motivation and engagement of our adolescent learners. Like they're already like, who wants to take an epilepsy learning module? Like I don't. So we try and make it a little more engaging and fun for them instead of just presenting the information in this like didactic way. So fun fact number 4 is I once ate fiberglass as a kid because I thought it looked like cotton candy. It was not. All right. The next project is a continuation of the epilepsy journey in many ways. It was a continuous collaboration with the Cincinnati Children's Hospital's Epilepsy Center. In EACT, what we focused on was this idea like, kids with epilepsy have memory challenges because of the executive function deficits that are related to having seizures and all of that. So if you have memory challenges and you need to take medicine, more often than not, you might forget to take your medicine. And then that makes things worse. And then that makes your memory worse. So then it's just kind of like a dog eat tail sort of situation. So EACT was developed as a way of helping the caregivers and providers of kids with epilepsy try to promote their child's medicinal adherence, taking the onus off of the kid and more onto the parent so that the kids could focus on the other learning that they had to do. And EACT was designed to be a mobile application with it was designed around theories of andragogy or adult learning, knowing that the parents are often busy. Like spoiler, being a parent is a daunting and busy task. So we designed it to be based mobile first and to be around micro learning with the idea that maybe you're picking your kid up from their soccer game and you have 5 minutes before they're jumping in your car. So you can quickly look at the intervention, get the information you need. There's progress tracking. You can pick up where you last off and all the information can be digested in like 3 to 5 minutes. All right, so fun fact 5 is I got out of bed today, and that is in itself an accomplishment, especially after the holiday weekend. So at this point, you might be asking, where is the beef? I hope someone here remembers the where's the beef person. And by beef, I mean immersive learning. This is, after all, the Immersive Learning Research Network, and nothing that I've spoken about so far can be categorized as an immersive learning system. And fun fact number 6 is I am a vegan with a big where's the beef sign. Where's the vegan beef? So now I'm going to transition to talk to you a little bit more about some of the immersive learning stuff that I have been doing. So the first, I guess, immersive learning project I ever worked on was called Virtuoso. Virtuoso was a suite of virtual reality interventions designed to promote the skills needed to catch public transportation in and around a campus setting for adults, autistic adults who are enrolled in a day program. The way that it worked was basically that we had a photorealistic one-to-one replica of the entirety of the university with a functional shuttle bus simulation. So you could actually be on campus where this day program was situated, walk down on the campus, learn how to navigate to the bus stop, learn how to check the shuttle's progress on the shuttle tracking app, and then eventually get on the bus itself. It was designed to be individually tailored so that there's a saying, if you've met one person of autism, then you've met one person of autism. So one of the great things about VR is that you can control and manipulate almost an infinite amount of variables. So we were able to manipulate the environment to make it customized to the individual's needs so they could practice these skills in a safe and controllable way. Fun fact number 7 is I cannot keep track of my water bottle. It's never where I thought I left it. So after finishing the Virtuoso project, started to work on this other project that's based out of the University of Florida and now the University of Georgia called Project Phoenix. And it's a 3D learning environment that was co-designed with autistic adults. And the way that it works is it's basically designed for 2 purposes. One is to provide information. Virtual reality has been used since around 1995 to provide training and interventions for autistic individuals, kids, adults, etc. Not to a lot of success, mind you, but it has been used since 1995. And most of the work in this field has been rather medicalized, oftentimes ableist. And oftentimes the research is being conducted on the participants with the hopes of, I'll say air quotes, fixing them. So a lot of the research that you see is around social and communicative skills, especially like you'll see a lot of research around like eye tracking, like, well, autistic individuals don't look you in the eyes when they're talking to you, so we need to fix that. So it will be like, as they're looking at some kind of virtual agent and the 3D environment, if they don't maintain that eye contact, it will force them to it. It'll just keep adapting the system and be like, here you go, look me in the eye, you're not doing it again, there you go. And it just drill and repeat. So it's a lot around fixing autistic characteristics instead of embracing and making a more inclusive society. And Project Phoenix was designed as a way of trying to break some of those expectations and to change the conversation. So part of it is that it is a virtual museum that presents what kind of work has been done in the field of all VR and autism research, so that autistic individuals can come into the space, see what has been done, see what's being done, and see what maybe the future holds. And it's also used as a place to gather data and to hear from autistic community members. So we've done a number of focus groups in this space around what kind of work they want to be done, how we can use this space to support autistic needs, preferences, and desires. And importantly, this space was in itself co-designed with the autistic community, which is something that you don't see a lot of. Most of the research out there in this space just talks like it's hard to do co-design with autistic individuals. Like, cool. And then it ends. So we're trying to actually address some of that. There's not a lot of co-design research out there. So fun fact number 8 is I lie in bed thinking about the USDA. What does that mean? Nobody knows. All right. So building off of the Project Phoenix project is another one. It's a 2D video game that I'm currently working on. It's called The Things Left Behind, and it's a 2D video game that is being designed with 2 primary goals. One is to promote empathy for neurodiverse individuals, with the goal that neurotypical individuals maybe will play the game and better understand neurodiverse characteristics. But that's not the primary goal. That's more of a secondary goal. The primary goal is more to celebrate and affirm neurodiverse experiences, to provide snapshots and vignettes of the neurodiverse life and what it means to be neurodivergent, and to show that there's positives and there's strengths and there's challenges. Not everything is great, but this game is being co-designed from start to finish. Every single part of it is being taken to the neurodivergent community. We've done a series of, I think 9 empathy interviews so far. We've done a series of focus groups. Every time there's an asset that is created, it is brought out for focus groups. So our art direction our art is being done by a neurodivergent artist. Our story is being done by a narrative writer who has neurodivergent kids, and our developers are neurodivergent. So the idea around the game is that we're basically creating short gameplay scenarios to showcase little vignettes of life, and then we're going to basically create personas and identities to explore, to show that there's complexity around it. Trying to break out of some of the stereotypes. A lot of the media representation of neurodivergent individuals often isn't good. You get a lot of either completely negative stereotypes, like that person's crazy, or you get overly stereotyped representation, and you might think of stuff like Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory, or the Good Doctor is a much cited example of stereotyped representation of a non-neurodivergent individual playing an autistic doctor, and just basically stereotyping around set for an hour per episode. So the idea around this is to get out of some of those tropes, provide some positive representation, and to celebrate and affirm. So fun fact number 10 is, even though I work in it often, is I actually hate virtual reality. It makes me feel sick, and I don't like working in it. Cool beans. All right, so another current project that I'm working on, and I'm kind of at the beginning of this project. It is a National Science Foundation funded project through the REDL program. It's called You Succeed, and it's a virtual reality game that I'm making to provide workforce development and cybersecurity training for neurodivergent adults, with the idea that individuals with disabilities are oftentimes left out of like critical instruction growing up, critical exposure to topics around like STEM topics due to accessibility challenges in the classrooms, lack of resources, and then neurodiverse individuals are even less likely to receive any kind of formalized training on this. So in an effort to broaden STEM participation and address some of those gaps, we are creating this game-like virtual reality system that will provide cybersecurity training. What we're doing is we're also taking a rather iterative co-design or close to co-design approach. We have partnered with several organizations in and around the University of Missouri's campus to do things like job shadowing. So we're having our fourth individual from one day program come in, and then they shadow us for a couple weeks at a time. They're involved in the conversations, they're involved in the design considerations, they test out our hardware and our systems, and they give feedback on the prototypes that we make during that time period. We're also working with another program we'll be starting next semester, where we will have one of their students come in and actually be doing like a full semester in the information experience lab and be involved in the project. And this individual has a vested interest and wants to learn cybersecurity. So we're going to create a customized, we're not just going to be creating the program, but we're going to be creating a customized learning plan for them over the semester so they can learn cybersecurity while creating a cybersecurity VR system. Fun fact number 9 is I encourage you to be weird. Academia needs more weird people. So I've been talking about a lot of different stuff. I've been saying this word co-design, so I've got to promote this paper that recently came out in the Journal of Autism and Developmental Disorders, but it's titled "How Are Autistic People Involved in Design of Extended Reality Technologies? A Systematic Literature Review." And we created a figure in our discussion around what does co-design actually look like. You see co-design a lot, and oftentimes it's not actually co-design. You still have examples of like expert-led design where no actual autistic people or neurodivergent people are brought in, but it's like the people around that, like, I'm a special education expert. Well, that's great, but that's not enough. So we're saying that our sweet spot that people should aim for is this co-design with autistic people or neurodivergent people, and where they should be included as collaborative co-designers and have an actual stake in the project, and not just having the project tested on and then like moving on. Like having something that is made from start to finish that is meaningful to the individuals involved is where we should all be aiming. So fun fact number 10 is I used to be in a death metal band. I was the drummer and we sucked. So with that, I want to open it up to questions and conversations with one last fun fact from my dog, which is, it says Noah is my human and dude has a smooth brain. All right. Questions, comments, thoughts, prayers.
I wanted to just say out loud for the recording, that was really, really cool and thought-provoking, but I would really like us to create a bumper sticker that's co-designed with the weird, or with the weird. Yeah, definitely with the weird.
Yeah, go with. Yeah.
But
The next I learned.
I did have a question for you, Noah. Like the degree you were talking about, like, we say we co-design. What does co-design mean? And we co-design at what part of the design process and in what way, right? Like what does the co-design is sort of a catch-all phrase for a whole family of different types of, like, groups and processes making things. How could we unpack that?
Yeah, and that's what we found while doing this paper, is that people kept saying they did co-design. And when you look at the literature, there's a lot of definitions. But you can't really call it co-design if they're not actually involved. The first part of co-design is for, I guess, collaborate.
Right.
But if you're not collaborating, then it's not really doing much. And if you look at the history of extended reality research for any kind of neurodivergent population, as I said, it really started around 1995 with some of Dorothy Strickland's work, and took off from there. Most of the work that was done was desktop-based work. But what you see is that most of this stuff dies in research labs at universities. There's a lot of reasons for that. One is making virtual reality systems is really, well, it's hard. And most of the people doing this stuff tends to be from education programs or SPED programs. And sometimes you get computer scientists, but it's usually some kind of education major. And education people aren't great with technology for the most part.
Right.
And there's very few like VR education design classes. Like most people don't know how to program and to create 3D models. And if they do know how to do those things, can you do them sufficiently enough to match up to the design conjecture and the considerations that are actually spoken about in the literature? And in that case, 99.9% of the people out there doing this kind of work just definitively cannot do it. So then they make bad systems that don't function. And then you're like, all right, well, I made this system and I'm going to pass it on to you, the day program, the special ed day program. Good luck. And it doesn't work. It just dies. Or the technology gets out of date. My very first, the Virtuoso project that I spoke about, the first prototype took me 2.5 years to create it. And I have an IT background, but I had never worked in 3D modeling. I never worked in 3D worlds. I never done any of it. I learned from scratch just for the sake of doing this project. And it took me 2.5 years to create what was effectively about a 10-minute scenario in virtual reality. And then after I created it, the software company that I made it in, High Fidelity, shut down and was gone. So there's 2.5 years of work gone, does not work anymore. And the software was out of date a couple months after making it. So I ported it over to Unity, and that's been since 2019 since I created it in Unity. That's 4 years. That's a long time in VR development time. I left the university where I got my PhD at. My advisor left the university. The day program director left the university. So nobody is using the system that I made. Um,
This was Philip Rosedale's High Fidelity.
mhm,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Like how much of that was those I'm not familiar with the platform, honestly, but I mean I know of it, but I didn't have a hands-on opportunity. But some of those skills were transferable though, yeah? Like it wasn't completely left in the dust.
Yeah, I mean, it took me a semester to make it in Unity versus 2.5 years.
Right, right.
The assets were what took the longest to make, and those were mostly drag and drop.
Yeah.
There were plugins that I was able to implement. Some of the stuff was harder in Unity, like High Fidelity had the 3D avatars already rigged, and they had lip movements and gesturals, and was already developed to work with
Mhm.
headsets. Unity did not. Unity did not have multiplayer or networking, so there were some learning curves, but there were ultimately it was much easier to develop in. Um,
Right, right.
but that
That's
I want to emphasize one last point here is that things oftentimes, for the best of intentions or not, they die in university labs. My work historically as well, the Virtuoso project is not being used. Um, and who
yeah,
benefited from that? Oh, I did. I got a PhD. Uh, the other people involved in the project from the research side all got like promotions and changed universities, and you see their work out and about the community. But what the autistic individuals, what did they get? They really didn't get anything. The day
right.
program didn't get anything either.
Not yet.
Um,
You're I see you trucking forward though, like you're carrying all this. This is being recorded and it'll be on YouTube. So the
yeah.
analysis here, I think you're right. Like the workforce of like higher education is not conducive um for this kind of like, open, inclusive, iterative work.
Yeah.
It's also really points out the silos that currently exist, as these disciplines grew up. There's a lot to learn about learning. There's a
Mhm.
lot to understand about pedagogies, especially when I don't know about especially, but like particularly when you're looking at people with diverse needs. And then there's the whole knowledge that it takes to create these immersive environments. It's
Mhm.
inherently such an interdisciplinary set of work, and that's kind of what one of the reasons I think we need this community of people is because and there's this change which you also point out, right? Like,
Mhm.
and change means some of these things that we all invest in die, and we have to like figure out a way to pick up and move on to the more robust technologies. I think
Yeah.
Unity is a good choice. uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's really, there's a lot of challenges involved in just participating in this space to look for quality learning in
Mhm.
immersive. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I see you had some
um
questions in the chat too.
I was gonna say, yeah, sorry to take up so much bandwidth, but Terry was saying, I like what you said about embracing instead of fixing, and what specifically can we do? Is there an
Sure.
easier word than neurodivergent that's okay to use? She follows up with.
Sure. So in regards to embracing instead of fixing, that's around perspective. As I mentioned, most things have been done from a medicalized perspective. And a lot of these projects are, in fact, even funded through medical agencies or done in collaboration with medical facilities like hospitals, day programs, applied behavioral analysis programs, stuff like that. Um, and their whole thing is like, well, fixing. There's some organizations such as Autism Speaks that is very adamant around we want to develop a cure for autism. We want to fix autism once and for all. Um, and there's also the social inclusion model, which is in contrast to that philosophy, which is rather neurodivergence, be it autism, ADHD, epilepsy, any kind of cognitive disability. is part of the human experience and part of human diversity and should not be cured. It should be embraced, and we should design, instead of trying to fix these things, just have a better understanding of individuals. If someone's not looking you in the eyes, they're not being disrespectful. Maybe they have severe anxiety and this is how they communicate. Or maybe the room is so overstimulating, the lights are flickering, there's a humming coming from a generator in the room next or something, the heat's running, and like they're just like overstimulated and they're like kind of like looking around the room and they're stimming. Just don't worry about it. It's just them. Leave them be. So in regards to this kind of work, what can we do specifically? I'd say aim for this sweet spot, this co-design with any kind of neurodivergent people. What do they actually want? And this goes back to what I mentioned earlier. Most of the systems that have been made, most VR systems for autistic individuals, have been around social and communicative skills, with the idea that they are bad at it and they need to be fixed. But if you ask the autistic community, hey, if we were to use virtual reality, how would you like to use it? Spoiler,
Yeah.
they don't care about social and communicative skills. They care about like life skills. They want to know how to date. They want to know how to prepare for interviews. They want to know how to use public transportation. It's things that will improve their quality of life and things that are relevant to them. So bringing actual people into the design process before, during, and after is probably one of the best ways of addressing this. A lot of the work that I do is situated within learner and or user experience design. And it's just an iterative approach. It uses things like design thinking. You create a lot of empathy maps, personas, and you distill design principles through that. But it's very human-centered. I'm going to put a link in the chat to a good resource for learner and user experience design.
Awesome.
And in regards to if there's another term instead of neurodivergent, there are a lot of different terms. And what I would recommend is asking the people you're working with, what terms do you prefer? So neurodivergent is just like an umbrella term when I'm not talking about anything specific. So when I'm talking about autistic individuals, I say autistic people. When I'm talking about people who have ADHD, I'll say people with ADHD. If I'm talking about any kind of cognitive disability, learning disability, and I'm just broadly speaking, I might just say neurodivergent. But it's important to ask, because you can ask one group of autistic people, what do you prefer? And they might say people with autism. You ask another group and they might say autistic people. So it's important to ask and just know that language evolves, and you don't need to, a lot of people like get offended if they're corrected on it. Like just use the language that people prefer. All right, so I see another question
From Pamela. You want me to read that out? She
Sure.
says she says they teach a course at St. Joseph's College of Maine around the XR technologies in learning and education, and appreciates the thoughtful and engaging approach to including neurodiverse students in the design and prototyping. She'd like to connect with you at some point to invite you to spend a few minutes in remote conversation. So we might invite graduate students to engage with your ideas and work.
I put my email in the chat.
Awesome.
It's also
Lydia asks, isn't preparing for interviews a communication skill?
Yes. So I guess to elaborate more, I mean, you can argue in some sense that most things are communication and social skills. Even getting on a bus is a social activity. We live in a society. There's social components to getting on a bus. You walk up to a bus and you're waiting and it comes up to the bus stop. What do? Do you rush on that bus before people get off? No, it's like all these unwritten rules. You wait for the people to get off the bus, and then you get on the bus. If the bus is empty, do you sit down next to the only other person on the bus? you can, but no one's gonna like that. So there's a lot of social and communicative skills in everything.
Yeah.
Um, More
Mhm.
so what I mean by that is that it's a specific and hyper focus on things like that, and it's usually around fixing. So it's usually for communication skills, it's around locking down eye contact. It's
Right.
around reducing stimming to make sure that they're not like playing with a fidget, that they're not fidgeting, they're not flipping their wrist, they're standing still, they're not swaying, um,
Mhm.
they're not like looking off elsewhere, or pulling out their phone and playing with their phone while they're supposed to be engaged in a conversation. For communication, there's a lot around joint attention and attending to objects together. Um, so it's usually, when I say that, it's usually from more of a medicalized perspective versus these individuals. Like when I talk about things like interview training, they want to be embraced for who they are. They want to know how to answer questions, but they don't want to be coerced and in many cases like physically restrained or like
Mm.
literally forced to stop being who they are. So if they're in an interview, they would like the ability to like maybe be looking to the side, but to answer the question. And those are the kind of skills they want, is how can I answer questions? How can I prepare for the interview? Um,
Right.
how can I like do my personal hygiene for the day in a way that is appropriate? Um, how can I like find the bus and catch it when I need to? Um, let's
Brilliant.
see.
Giovanna asks, how do you think we can resolve the issue of lack of coding skills and technology knowledge in educators? Do you think
Uh,
maybe no code apps could make a difference?
I mean, I guess that's the dream, isn't it? Um,
Well, lowering the
honestly,
barrier, you know?
yeah. Um, honestly, I don't know if it'll ever be fixed. I
Yeah.
I teach teachers, and I oftentimes teach. I've taught a variety of like intro to ed tech classes for pre-service teachers. I've taught like introduction to web development for teachers, and I've never met a group of more technologically illiterate people than pre-service teachers. Um,
Yeah.
and it's painful. Um,
The cultures
and
are far apart.
it's far apart. And this is coming from like we're what am I teaching these days? Gen Z. We had the whole idea of digital natives, what, like that was 20 years ago, and that wasn't
Mark
right.
Prensky, yeah.
Mark Prinsky's digital natives was incorrect. And we
Bad
have people
metaphor.
who grow up, yeah, bad metaphor. We have people now who are even more involved in screen time and on computers and stuff, oftentimes from like the age of 3 and up.
Yeah.
Um, but they don't know how to use it. Like it's
Oh, they
great
don't.
because tablets have apps, you open it, you play it, you read your book, you watch your movie. That's great. That's all they can do.
They like to watch cats.
But they can't, half the time they can't even get into the settings and make basic changes. And I have so many frustrating training opportunities and moments that I've been involved in. If I switch over from Zoom to WebEx, it's like 99% the same software, but people like, I can't find the settings. Like it's the exact same place as every single other web conferencing tool.
Right.
And that's basic stuff. And I got asked this exact same question the other day. I was in a AI panel at my university, and before the panel started, they couldn't figure out how to broadcast the Zoom onto the screen. And they asked me a question about teachers and technology, and I said, raise your hand. How many of you would have been confident and willing to go address this issue with the Zoom before the start of the session? And not one of them. It's like, well, that's a problem.
Yeah.
These things aren't hard. Um, So in regards to no code, I guess that's the dream. There are no code solutions that exist, but the problem is that if there's no code, then there's no flexibility because it's going to give you exactly what is there. there are visual editors. There's web-based platforms like Mozilla Hubs and Mozilla Spoke that do not require any kind of coding and is literally a drag and drop 3D interface.
Mhm.
But with that, you get very rigid limitations, not a lot of flexibility in what you can do. So if you want to extend it, good luck. With Unity, you can do just about anything as long as you can write the code for it or find someone who has written the code for it, you can do it. And at this point, with Unity, you really almost never need to actually program because there's thousands and thousands of free or really cheap plugins that will do anything you want. You can have it do the networking for you. You can have it do the avatars for you. You can have it do the dialogue system for you. There's literally plugins that will tie into ChatGPT where you can have adaptive feedback from some kind of autonomous agent, or
Right.
you can have ChatGPT tell you how to do stuff. Like say, hey, I need a script that when I touch this box, it makes the dialogue window pop up and it will write the code for you.
Right.
So I almost encourage people to go to ChatGPT and have it write the code. If you don't know, if you don't need code, ha have it do your tech support for you. Save up the bandwidth of the tech support people for things that matter. Can't figure out how to get to Zoom to like broadcast? Ask ChatGPT, hey, I'm using a Mac device and the projector is a Xerox 249. I made up that number. And I see this screen and I need to get my screen on it. What do I do? And I guarantee you it's going to tell you. I
Yeah.
use ChatGPT, the workflow stuff for me. I'm using a dialogue system that I've never used before in that 2D video game I spoke about. And there's no programming involved, but it's got hecka UI. Like, good luck figuring out. Half of it's like hidden and you don't know like where it is. But I tell ChatGPT, hey, I'm using Unity version 2022.19.1f.1, and I'm using this plugin, and I have these objects named this, and I need them to do this. And it will literally step by step tell you every single thing that you need it to do. So
Right.
my long-winded answer is, one, we need better training. Technology, God, I'm gonna get range for this one. I think technology is more important than pedagogy oftentimes.
Yeah.
Um,
Whoa.
and I'm also a very anti-technocentric. Um,
Yeah.
but if you can't make a system, then all the pedagogy in the world doesn't mean anything if your system is absolutely trash. And also, I think that we should be using AI and more supports.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Pathways.
Let's see.
Terry said you mentioned you later got a degree in what you already knew how to do. If you could go back to that younger Noah, what would you say to yourself before starting those classes?
So I actually, when I uh, was in high school, I applied to the university for their psychology program and I was accepted. But I did not want to go to grad school, so I switched to IT so I could just get an easy degree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it,
Actually, I think psychology would have paired really well with what I do now. Um, but instead, I spent something like $40,000 to get a piece of paper to do web development that I was already doing. So good job.
right.
So what would I say to myself? I'd say, brah, what are you doing? I would say, don't change a thing. Actually, I would probably get a PhD in like computer science instead of education because I literally work with computer scientists and we do the exact same job, but they make twice as much money.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. You get the cred.
yeah.
Yeah. That's
Do, do,
awesome.
do, do, do.
Uh, honest comment, pre-service teachers aren't getting the message that tech is a powerful partner in learning, lots of fear. I think that's true. And there's also there are some teachers who do kind of getting, and I think that's just if I can step on the iLearn platform for 2 seconds during the
Do it.
webinar, like I think that by creating opportunities and opening up and differentiating like the potential for teachers and allowing that to open up, I'm really super excited about Noah jumping on to, to be part of this, because I think largely the network itself can act in this way. And if I could say, most humans have disabilities in this information rich, soaked, fast paced, crazy, tense environment that we all live in. Like there's a lot of, I'm not minimizing people with disabilities, because they're like, I the differences are wide and vast. And I think that we can differentiate instruction for literally everybody, because we all are having a hard time tracking and managing change and dealing with other people and, figuring out how to get things done. So the roots of my research started in working with people with learning disabilities. And it just makes me feel so good that this is the direction that I think the whole network decided last summer to make it a priority, that access and inclusion and diversity should be the number one strategy for the community. And so I think we should go for it. So thanks, Noah. But yeah, good strategies here, I think, that can be like applied across a variety of levels.
Yeah. Let's see. Someone asked me about VR and making me sick, and if I still believe, but I still believe in creating experiences. Can I say why? Yeah, so VR makes me sick. I've never liked it. I don't use VR in my free time. I have a litany of different VR headsets. The reason that I think it's a good fit is because there's the potential for learning in virtual reality and really most immersive technologies, I think, is unparalleled. The ability to provide authentic, realistic, and high fidelity scenarios that you can practice skills in a safe and controllable way, and in a way that is adaptive. You start talking about bringing in like artificial intelligence to it. You can adapt the environment real time. You can provide customized supports. And you can create something that is truly unique to the individual. I don't think the technology is quite there yet to do it in a way that is wide scale, because of the challenges in creating stuff. Even the challenges in creating 3D models and creating authentic 3D models. When I did my dissertation, there was nothing out there. Now you have photogrammetry and you have algorithms. You can attach a camera to a drone, fly it over, take tons and tons of stills and convert them into 3D models. There's 3D cameras you can take into your office, like spin in a circle, and it will convert it into a 3D mesh. That stuff did not exist, and it's still not perfect, but it's far better than it was when I started in 2016. The development platforms are better than they were. In regards to the cyber sickness, there's next to no research on cyber sickness and neurodiversity. 99% of the research is on neurotypical individuals, and the research there shows that upwards of 80% of people tend to exhibit some symptoms, the severity of which varies person to person. The only in-depth analysis of cyber sickness with neurodivergent individuals is my own work, published in the Journal of Virtual Reality, that looks at autistic individuals experiencing cyber sickness, and we need more. We need more research. Individuals who are neurodivergent and autistic tend to have sensory processing challenges and disorders. And then you say, hey, can you go jump into this system that is known to be overstimulating and make you sick? Awesome. Have a good time. And I'm neurodivergent, and maybe that's why I don't like it. Or maybe it's Maybelline. I don't know. No Maybelline joke. I'll post a link to this paper. I don't think it's open access, so You might have to email me to request it, or see if
Okay.
your university gives you access. But there's the link to it.
Thank you. Awesome. Appreciate that.
There was another question in the Q&A panel from earlier. It said, excluding the idea of co-design with the target group, do you have other advice for ID?
Instructional designers, instructional design.
Yes.
So I'm from an ID background. My dissertation chair was from an ID background. What I always say, we have these conversations all the time, is I would hire one programmer over two instructional designers any day. And it just goes back to the importance of technology and the ability to actually use it. Most systems are so, like, we have award-winning systems. I say this all the time. Like, you go to ID organizations or academic conferences and they hand out awards for like best instructional design, best e-learning system, and they look like shit. They look like things that like we were making as freshman projects in my IT undergrad class. And then this is like award-winning system. And I guarantee you it's no better than anything else that already existed. And that doesn't mean that you should be doing media comparison studies and like comparing which learns better. But it's just a bad system. And that's the state of the field. Is instructional designers are supposed to know everything and anything, but the one thing that they don't know is technological skills. And it's oftentimes an instructional design and technology degree, but the technology is like an afterthought.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
My dog says that.
That's filtering out pretty good. Yeah, I think the high quality immersive learning starts with good technology. But then there's so many other like games and other experiences that are pseudo educational, and they lack the good pedagogy. So it's interesting to, we've talked to a number of game designers who are like, yeah, we wanted to create an educational game, but then the tensions between the education and the fun, yeah, we'll have to trade off on the education stuff to make it sustainable in a game way, like.
Yeah. And that goes back to like educational games never really took off. You had your edutainment boom in the 90s, but like any actual good educational game, especially from a research side, they suck. Same issues. The technology sucks, the graphics suck, the interaction sucks. Most of the stuff out there is like, hey, I'm playing a game, I'm playing a game, I'm playing a game. Oh, I died. To revive, answer this math question. Like, okay. Or it's just forced.
Right.
There's a
Yeah.
saying that instructional designers suck the fun out of everything. The best educational games are games that were not developed to be educational games. Spiritfarer is a game that I highly recommend. It's the best educational game. It's the best serious game I've ever played, and it's a commercially available game that was not developed to be an educational game.
Right. Yep.
And
civilization, and yeah.
There's an iLearn proceeding about Spiritfarer and some of the work being done with that game. I would highly recommend you all check out.
Oh, thanks for the link. thunderlotusgames.com/.
That's the game, and here's the iLearn.
There's an IEEE Explore link that Noah shared.
And the full work of this paper is, I believe, going to be in press soon. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Well, we're coming up on the top of the hour. Michael, is there any other questions that we missed? Any comments that you have there, my friend?
I'll just say I'm not on LinkedIn, whoever asked that. You can find me on ResearchGate, Google Scholar, or Twitter, I guess.
Right.
If you have to find me on social media, I guess you can find me on Twitter. I don't post very much anymore.
Or hop into the iLearn Discord. I think Noah's been known to be there.
Yeah, the Discord.
All right. Well, yeah, there's a huge range of things here. Sorry, I had a hard time keeping things on topic. You just make me think of so many different things, and I'm so excited to chat with you, Noah. So I want to thank you again for coming on, and hoping to talk to you again soon, and really appreciate it.
Excellent. It's been a pleasure.